Hey everybody, welcome back to Beginner's Mind, Art Mind. I'm Linda. Yes, I finally got my hair cut. This is my first haircut since COVID. My doctor told me about somebody that is doing outdoors haircuts. So I went to her and got a haircut, and I'm so happy to have all that heavy length taken off. But this week I decided to do something different. YouTube sent me a notification that I had reached over 3,000 subscribers to my channel. I'm a really new YouTube art content creator, so that was like a really nice number to hit and was very exciting. And I had so much gratitude for those of you that have supported my channel with your likes, your comments, by subscribing, but also who click the links for the Buy Me a Cup of Coffee and have donated so that I can buy art supplies to review. All the different ways that you support my channel. I just felt a lot of gratitude. So what I decided to do was, for Easter weekend, I had decided that I would upload a new video every day. So I started on Thursday and today is Saturday. So today's the third video in the Easter weekend video marathon. And today, what I have for you is I loaded my favorite travel palette. So I show you the process I go through to load this properly. So many people buy this palette and they don't load it properly and they run into problems and then they decide they don't like it. So I'm going to show you how to load it without making a mess and so that it works well for you. I'll show you how I map out my colors, how I swatch different colors and then choose which colors I'm going to want to narrow my palette down to. And then every year I make a little map and list of the colors that I put into it so that I can look back and see what worked for me and what didn't work for me the following year. So I show you about that process. And then finally, I give you a tour of my favorite Pochade box, the Alla Prima Belly River Pochade box. And I show you all the little secret things that Ben has worked into this box that make it so very special. So there's a lot of content in today's video. I really hope you enjoy it. I hope you've been enjoying this marathon of videos over the weekend. There'll be one more tomorrow on Easter Sunday. My husband is sick, so it depends on how well he's doing tomorrow. But I do have a video in the can that just needs some editing. So I hope I get it up for you tomorrow and I'm able to do the whole Thursday through Sunday thing. So please enjoy the video. Have a happy Easter weekend, happy Passover, happy spring, whatever you celebrate. I'm sending out love to you guys and I'm so grateful for your support. Thank you. I have my little Transin palette, which I'll put a link below the video for this, all cleaned out. I'm looking at how I laid out my little plein air palette last year and making decisions on what I'm going to change this year and mapping out a new plan for what's going to go into this palette, figuring out what worked for me and what didn't work for me in the layout I had. So I keep all of my M-gram gouache, and there's some Holbein in here too, in these reused food containers that you get from the grocery store, and it keeps them airtight so that they'll last longer. So I'm going to pull out the colors that I need for this plan. So I was only going to put M-gram colors, and I actually am probably only going to put M-gram colors in the actual palette. But I think this year I want to be a little bit more experimental, and I have some new Holbein paints that I haven't really used and I'd like to experiment with. So I may play around and take some of these in a little pouch and just see what I end up using the most of. And so I will put this pouch here and lay ones on here that I'm thinking of bringing in it. And then whatever I decide that I like and what I'm using, I can maybe add to my palette, this palette. But there's some I might like to experiment with. In my reds, I'm thinking of bringing the alizarin crimson. I haven't made up my mind. I want to have a warm red and a cool red in there, but I'm going to use Cad Red Light this year. I think last year I had regular Cad Red, and I can't decide on the second color if I want quinacridone red, quinacridone rose, or quinacridone violet. So I have to make that decision. The yellows I'm pretty set with, the yellows and the browns. I've got Azo yellow, Gamboge yellow ochre, which I may either bring yellow ochre or I don't know if I'm going to bring raw sienna. Let's see. I've got burnt sienna, burnt umber. Yeah, my browns I have to think about. Okay, so what I think I'm going to do is I think I'm going to swatch some of these out and try to narrow down which ones I think I want to go to, because I'm making quite a bit of changes this year. And yeah, before I actually fill these, I want to be fairly sure that I'm comfortable with my choices. So why don't I do that? Okay, so let's get swatching so I can see which colors I want to add to my plein air palette this year and which colors I want to take out. It's amazing how much longer it takes to get set up to do these tasks when you're filming. Sometimes it's just so hard to get the camera angle right. This tube popped out with color. Okay, Azo yellow. I know is probably a given. That's way more paint than I wish came out, but there it is. If you squeeze your tube, you can backtrack the paint in and then wipe it with a baby wipe to get all that crusty stuff off. Okay, yellow ochre and raw sienna. I need to decide which one I'm going to bring. Next, I'll do the reds. Now I know I'm going to want the Cad Red Light. These three are the ones that I need to choose from to narrow down. Okay, so that's all of the M grams. I've narrowed some of them down. And now I'm going to think of some of these Holbein colors. I need to narrow at least one out of these if I want to fit them all in my thing, which should be pretty easy. I have a feeling a couple of these might go. Okay, so after all my swatching and changing things out, pulling out some colors that I had in and adding some new colors, this is what I've come up with. The things in the black circles are the ones that I'm going to be putting in this palette, and this pile are ones, some that I may decide to carry in a satchel on the side. I do like to bring ivory black because it mixes really great greens. So yeah, I gotta think if I'm gonna change something out from over here for the ivory black or not. But these I'm leaving out, may end up just bringing them along in a satchel. So I will go over with you first what I'm going to put in. I don't know how well you can see this. I'm losing the light in the studio, and even though I have some lights going, I'm afraid they're causing shadows. So I'm going to bring Azo Yellow, Gamboge, Yellow Ochre. I'm not going to bring Raw Sienna because I can mix that with Yellow Ochre and Burnt Sienna. I'm going to bring Burnt Umber. I'm not going to bring Raw Umber because I can mix that using Burnt Umber and Ultramarine Blue. I'm going to bring Cadmium Red Light. I'm going to bring Alizarin Crimson, and that's a Holbein color. I have a few Holbein colors. I hope that they're going to do okay in that airtight palette. I've never brought them before. I'm hoping they don't dry out because I like to use them fresh, not dry. So Ultramarine Blue, Cobalt Blue, Sap Green, Hooker's Green, Naples Yellow. I love Naples Yellow. I wish I could fit sepia in, but I'm going to bring sepia separately. Ash Green, Ash Blue, and Aqua Blue and Smalt Blue. And these are newish colors to me. So that's why I'm adding them. It seems to make a lot of blues, but I'd like to fool around with those and get to know those colors a little bit more. So that's the ones that I'm bringing in the palette. It's an interesting mix for me. I've made a lot of changes. I usually bring the Diox Purple, but I use so little of it, and it's one of the ones in M Gram that tends to mold quickly. The dark colors seem to mold, and the mold is hard to see on the dark colors. So yeah, it's a lot of colors. It's plenty of colors to fool around with. I mean, really all I really would need would be warm and cool yellow, warm and cool red, same with the blues. So, oh, and my white. I keep my white separately. I don't put it in the palette. I keep it separate and put it on that second palette that I showed you, that I keep to the side just so I don't pollute my colors. So, that's what I'm going to load into my little palette for plein air painting. And I just need to decide if I'm going to load that in now or do it later. because my back's getting sore. Okay, maybe I'll load it in now. I think I will do, number one will be, well, let's see, number one is a small one. I think I'll start my yellows here, since the yellows are the ones you use the most. So I'm going to start the yellows in row 2. Let's see, I think the next row I would normally do reds after yellows, but truly you use so little red to mix colors. I think I will do greens next. Okay, so that's my yellows. I may end up putting, I think I'll put my, do I want my burnt sienna and burnt umber up there? Oh, I gotta think about that. I think the reds are gonna go up in these smaller areas. Okay, so that will be up in those small pockets up there. And then the yellows, maybe the 2 browns there. Okay. So that would be row 1. Row 2 would be the yellows. Okay, row 3 would be greens. Aqua blue. Then it would be ultramarine. So I am like so good at making mistakes when I do things like this, even though I have it all mapped out. So this is going to be interesting. Okay, so number 1 is cad red, and then burnt sienna. Burnt umber. Alizarin crimson. Azo yellow. Gamboge. Yellow ochre. Naples yellow Italian. Sap green. Hooker's green. Ash green. Ash blue. Aqua blue. ultramarine, cobalt blue, and that is so many blues that I need to decide right now if I want to do the smalt blue or the black. Oops, wrong page. That's the smalt blue. I think I'm going to do the smalt blue and bring a tube of black. Wow, this smalt blue is very thick. That's not a very old tube. It doesn't seem like it should be that thick. Okay, so that's what's in there. So sometimes the binder separates from the paint, and it's always a good idea when you put them into a palette like this that you stir them up to mix the binder in with the paint to help keep them moist longer. Boy, this one worries me a little bit because that is a fairly new tube of paint and it is so thick. I think that is going to harden up. This is my mixture of distilled water and vinegar. I do feel like it's important in the vinegar water mixture that you spray your paints with to use distilled water. We have well water in the country. There's no chlorine in it, no chemicals in it, so and probably a lot of minerals in it. So I just think when you're actually spraying the paints, it's a good idea to use distilled water for that part. It's amazing how much thicker these Holbein paints are than the M Graham. And then one other thing I want to do before I pack this all up is I'm going to swatch this right into the actual drawing of the palette so that next year, when plein air season starts again, I'll be able to look back just like I did on this one. I actually didn't swatch it in, I just wrote it in, but I'll be able to look back and see what I did for colors. Okay, so there's the final colors, final color choices. There it is. And there it is in real life. Okay, so then when I'm done filling it, I spritz it with the vinegar and water as you saw me do, and then you take this cap, this silicone cap, and you place it over to make it airtight. And like I said earlier, I actually have a video on YouTube of me dropping this in the pond and it floated. It was so airtight. Part of the trick is you want to always put it on the same way because you will get little bits of it, of the paint in there, and you don't want to overfill your container, your sections, because it'll spill over when you put these little edges in. And there it is. Click that down and push that in to lock it. So I take my finished palette, open my pochade box, pop it in. I've already got my brushes in there. I've got my white in there. Slide this closed. Pop this little shelf up. This Stay Wet palette that I created fits in the back. This shelf pops off and fits inside. And there you go. All ready to go. And then if I do decide to take this and pop some of those tubes in, I can just hook this little bag on the side here, and I'm ready to go. Can't say enough about these Alla Prima Pochade boxes. They're so well built. So well built. Panel holder in the back if you want to put wet panels in there if you're painting with oils. Another thing this has that I haven't showed in a video before is, I don't know if I can do this one-handed, magnetic sunshade. And I have actually used this. So it has magnets there. You put the magnet there and there. And then you take a panel and pop it in. And of course you can't tell in here, but that gives you shade, gives your palette and your panel that you're painting on shade from the sun. Really ingenious idea. Alla Prima Pochade, made by Ben Haggett in Montana. His website is allaprimapochade.com. I'll actually put a link below the video, and I'll also link the different items that I've used, that I've showed in the video. So there I go. I'm all ready to go out and plein air paint. It's a lovely setup.